of money currently, and to
Mhm.
understand how they feel about it, how they, because we have an upbringing with money that we don't really realize, and like you touched on the mental health aspect, the mental uh, stresses of money influence our utilization of it, and which affects our mental health, and like you have looked up and coined, the mental wealth. So we just have to understand where individuals, what do they perceive money to be? How was their upbringing to it? What was their relationship with money? And once we
Mhm.
understand that, we can then pivot to showcase and show them how to utilize money better to help themselves, their families, and those around them.
Mm. We're going to jump right into the water because it's very important that, because it seems as though it's a stigma that when you're poor, you're okay. It just seems like you're poor, like you're righteous. You're poor is okay. You're a humble person. But poverty is not a nice thing. It's like crutches. You
Correct.
know, it's like crutches. And once you start talking about money around people, especially in the church world, it's okay for ego, Pastor George. Amen. It's okay for yes, it's okay for the guys in the street, and I've been there too. I thought the only way that I could get money is by getting on the street corner and peddling pharmaceutical that is poisoning our community. And I think that people would have looked up to me now, because I could sling the chain, I could drive the car, and I won't be criticized for that. You know, I won't be criticized because people try to figure out what I do, but you know, it would take a long time for them to know. So I thought, but when I realized that, guess what? You got to start building. First, you got to start thinking or get an idea. How you going to build wealth? How are you going to do it? The plan is you have to put a plan in place before you can start moving forward. And I will put this question over to Pastor George. Pastor George, welcome to the broadcast. I have brother Albert with us tonight. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Pastor George concerning, and then we'll go back to Albert concerning this mental wealth. And
You're,
where is it?
you're
Where
okay. I could barely hear you, Pastor.
you could hear me now?
Now,
Good. Where do we start? What do we start with to build wealth?
amen. Well, first of all, thank you, Pastor. Thanks to our brother who's also on the line and everyone who's watching right now. Pastor, I think your camera, if you can put, there you go. Now I can see you, man. I can see you now. Now I feel better.
Okay.
Um, it's a great question, Pastor. That is a wonderful question. I remember I always you always hear me talking about my mentor,
Mhm.
and this person was able to amount over $3 million
Mhm.
net worth, and I remember that subject coming up. That subject coming up. And I remember him pulling me and talking about exactly what you just mentioned, Pastor. And he brought me one day and he said this. He said, George, please show me your goals and show me the plan that you have to achieve those goals.
Mhm.
Pastor, I didn't have any written goals. I didn't have any written plans. And he pulled me and he said, George, what would happen if you jump on the 7 train? I remember this. If you jump on the 7 train and you don't know where you're going and you don't have a plan in getting there.
Mhm.
And the answer was, I will end up anywhere. So I truly believe, Pastor, that it starts within. It starts within. It starts with understanding truly what you're trying to accomplish and where do you want to be. Because many people, Pastor, do not stop and think about what they truly want and how they're going to get it.
Mm.
You know, they don't sit down and think about the future. They live on a day by day basis. Planning is so important. Let me just add this quickly. There was a study recently done where they took some of the top companies in the United States and they found one thing in common within these top companies. And it was that the executives of these companies were looking out 10, 15, 20, and even 30 plus years out. So it was not a 1 week or a month or a year like most of us sometimes only stop and plan for. Long-term perspective. Long-term perspective.
You know, I thank God for you, Pastor Joe, because I know one of the things that I learned from you and I glean is that you love to plan. You love to plan,
Amen.
especially you love to plan. I was never a planner. I was just, you know what, just jump and do something without the plan, and maybe the plan gonna fall in place, you know. But tonight I have two of my wonderful guests. Albert, I met Albert Monday night, and on a broadcast on what's the name of the shoutcast? With
Sound chat,
Pastor Nelson. Huh?
sound chat radio.
Sound Chat Radio, see? Sound Chat Radio. And we were talking about will. We were talking about insurance, life insurance, different types. And, you know, I heard many voices speaking, but people were presenting themselves as a sales pitch. But when Albert came on, he spoke and lay out now a blueprint to ask questions, you know, and he came and visit me on Tuesday. He didn't waste no time, man, you know. And I thought the way he said, man, I gotta go by BBF tomorrow. And I said, man, maybe I know this guy. But to find out, that's his personality. Always excited to meet people. So again, I'm going to introduce Albert Hines and Pastor Gale, Pastor George Gale. Albert, what is your take? Somebody come to you and said, you know, I have a plan to get wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because it's a plan or a desire.
Right.
And they say, listen, what is the best approach to it? People will use, well, a savings account. You see, well, I save some money and get well. You'll be a very long, depends on your business now. You'll be doing it for a very long time.
Right.
3-4 jobs, it would take you a very long time. What would you, if someone come to you from your perspective, your financial background, and come to you and say, I want to get wealthy, where do I start?
Well, okay. Well, and I appreciate that question. I wanna utilize this joke that I give.
Mm-hmm.
People say, hey, I got a plan on becoming wealthy, like you stated. I say, even the bank robber had a plan on getting away. Right? But if looking at terms of business and then in the bank robber's perspective, if you plan on getting caught, you would most likely get away, right? Because we only think about the good things of the plan. We don't plan out all of the pitfalls, roadblocks, stumble blocks that may come. So I like to have people, let's work it from the end and go back to the beginning.
Wow.
Where do you want to go? Okay, you say, hey, I want to get wealthy. That's a broad statement. How are we going to get wealthy? Okay, we have to identify it. Like you said, if you're going to have 3 or 4 jobs, yeah, we've already seen that you're going to be working a very long time, very hard to potentially get wealthy. And we still haven't identified what wealthy means. So first, let's identify what does wealthy mean for the person. And then from there, we work it back to where they currently are. And then we say, hey, let's put this plan and achieve it within what time frame? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, what it's going to be. In life, we know we don't necessarily just instantaneously think on planning, but what I've noticed, like in playing sports, in being in business, there's always either a game plan or a business plan. And these plans are put in place to see where you are, where you want to go, and then work in between how we're going to get there. We want to make sure that, you know, we can identify the road as we travel it. You used the word earlier, blueprint. The contractor, the house builder, they just don't build a house. They have to get the blueprint. They have to see the structure. They have to see where the foundation is, where the beams are to the house, where the roof is. All of these things will be on paper, another plan, in order to build out that goal, that house that they want to create.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I love that analogy that he just brought up, Pastor. And here's why: in the corporate world, they have a term that they tend to throw out sometimes, and it's called "back from the future planning." And in essence, exactly what he brought up is exactly what they do. They put themselves 10 years, 15 years out, and they look around and they say, what do we have and how did we get here? What do we have and how did we get here? And it's so powerful because it forces you to really think about the steps that you had to take to get where you are. You know, they call it back from the future. And in JetBlue particularly, when we were there, it was done a lot. In year 1, we were already looking at year 20. Wow. They were already planning 10 years out. But the way they will look is, we will stand on 10 and year 10 and look back. How many airplanes did you have? How many people did you have? What were these people doing, et cetera, et cetera. It's very powerful, very powerful.
Into that point.
Go ahead.
Into that point, looking at it from a household perspective, right? The elder of the family, you know, once a child is born, you can gauge and say, hey, where do I see this child at 30? Do we already have a plan of if he wants to be? How are we going to get them to college? How are we going to set them up when they get married? The elder of the generation has already lived it, right? They've already lived what life is, but now they're able to give their children the ability to help their grandchildren. They're more willing to do so, right? And it's just that speck of time, because life, we have the history books to show us what's happened in history. But for life, you know, if we don't think down the road and then reflect back, we don't know where we're going, and we really don't know where we came from. So you have to constantly gauge into the future. Think about what you want, no matter what it is, what's possible. Just thinking about it gives you the ability to realize that you're going to get there one day. And then as you think about it, you sit down and say, hey, based on where I am now, what do I need to do to at least try to achieve that?
The question is, people who are listening, asking the question, because you might have some young family here, older family here, based on age, and they're asking a question now: is it too late for me to start building wealth?
Well, I believe the mere fact that you can think it, you can get it done. You know, no matter let me not say no one. We're not born with golden spoons, right? And even for the person born with a golden spoon, they need to know how to nurture it and you know, create more of it. There's still a plan. But for a family, and again, I have a family of me and my wife, a family of 5, so 3 children. But I realized from my first daughter, remember, when I could hold them in my arms, right? You could hold your child in your arms. And now at the age that, whatever age they are, mine are teenage, one is entering 6th grade and one is almost still in elementary. I can't hold them in one arm anymore. So from looking at them, growth has happened, right? The family has grown. What have we done in that time frame? One of the simplest things we can think about is a child moving from diapers to underwear, right? That's a big transition. I say that because having children, people who have young children know diapers can be expensive. But the minute you're no longer paying for diapers, you almost found a windfall of money because you don't need to buy diapers anymore.
Right.
But what are you going to do with that diaper money? Because you've already been spending on diapers, right? It's already been allocated toward diapers. Now you don't need diapers anymore. Where are you going to put that money? If you just kept that same budget for diapers and moved it into a bank account, you'd be surprised. You've already been spending on diapers. Now you're just shifting that money to go someplace else. It's not new money, it's not found money, but you're allocating it somewhere else, and that can build the ability to either save more, to then potentially invest. So we take it in little chunks.
You sound like someone who we were in a meeting one day, and someone was in the meeting with us and said, you know what, let us start with $1.
Right.
So you could develop the habit
Correct.
of saving. Someone tell us that. And I remember it got to a place where men were not able to even do that. And we had to turn back and give back some men their money. Because the discipline must be there with whatever you do. The discipline got to be there. Because many times, if the discipline is not there, then the discipline is not there. And it looks like it takes too long to happen. But you know what? What I found out is that it takes time for it to happen. You see, I don't, and I like what you said. Pastor George says that the company JetBlue will look from 10 years back to the first year. It's just like Mr. Hines' business, my business here. When I look at it, I don't look at it from a day-to-day operation. I look at it look at it from where I want to see it. I look back and say, okay, this is what I want. That's why every time I'm ready to do something, Pastor George, I always go here first. So when I'm putting the blueprint in here, it's easy for me to do it because I did all the calculations already. Go ahead, Pastor George. I hear you thinking.
No. There's so much meat there. There's a lot of meat there. And I normally always tell people that the habit, when it comes to money, it's more important than the money itself. The habit. You see, because you can give me $1 million, I can win $10 million. And if you look at statistics, people who, win these great amounts of money, within less than 5 years, they're broke again. So the habit is so important, along with the knowledge. And you said something key, Pastor. You said something so key. When we start anything, I tell my children, I tell my family, I have my son next to me. He can tell you, I say this multiple times. When you start, you want to truly start small and continue to think big. But start with baby steps and build on those baby steps. Imagine if you have 1,000 staircases in front of you and your job is to get up to the last one. The moment you look up, you're going to start thinking, man, this is too hard for me to do, man. This is way too hard. But boy, if you concentrate only on that one staircase, that one, and concentrate on that one until you complete that one, and then move on to the other. Before you know it, and you look back, you are going to see a nice amount of work and accomplishments. So it's powerful.
Wow. And that's important because people don't want to take the first step. And I know that even I didn't want to take the first step in nothing. But I had to learn to take the first step. Just like Mr. Heinz Turner said, he said, you know what? When you think about a baby and you hold it in your hands, you are holding the full responsibility in your hand. In your hand, you're holding that responsibility. So business planning is very important, because I remember when I got had my kids as babies, I used to ask myself the question, man, how am I going to feed them until they're 18 years old? Because I knew it was a responsibility, and I couldn't throw it on nobody else. So I had to find ways and means, because number one, I wasn't prepared to have children. Wasn't prepared. I was not prepared. I just got pregnant, and that's it. And everybody excited about the child. But nobody knew the economic challenges economic challenges that goes with a child or children.
Correct. Yep.
And it's very important, because think about it. When a baby's a baby, the money is a little small, but frequent, because that baby is going to use Pampers up, like it or not. Sometimes we change them 3 times a day or 4. And the pack only carry 25. So do the maths. Do the maths. You got 6 days for that, man. Every 6 days, you got to buy a pack of Pampers. So you got to have a budget for that. That's not too. You see, maybe in America, nice America, they got all these different wicks and stuff like that, But in some countries, you don't have it. Government don't give you nothing, and it's not government responsibility. Mr. Hines, when you think about people, go ahead.
No, I'm listening. Please.
When you think about people who are scared to invest, how do you look at them from that perspective? And what would you tell them?
Well, I want to understand their fear. What is fearful to them? What made them say they may be scared? Where did that come from? Now, I asked you that question, but I'm going to give you the answers that I normally hear. Oh, I heard I could lose money, or someone I know, they did this, it didn't work. It's a lot of hearsay. Or they may have invested themselves and they lost. But if I ask them, why did you lose? What was the circumstances? They don't really know themselves. They don't know why they invested in whatever they invested in. They don't know what the risk factor was. So, and I showed them that investing from the time, of the early farmer who invested in planting his crops, he can't tell what the weather's going to be like. He only knows he has to do his part. He has to plant this crop, he has to mine the field, and then he'll reap the harvest. That may not go every year. You may have a drought one year. You may have, over flooding. It's the same thing with investing. It may go good, it may go bad, but over a duration of time, if you have the discipline to being consistent, and if you take the time to learn what you're investing in, I haven't met anyone who has invested for a long period of time to say it totally went bad. Things go bad, So I first want to understand, why does investing scare them? Once we can get around that, let's figure out, what would you like to invest in? What's your comfortability? we call it risk tolerance in the industry. What's your risk tolerance? Because if you invest $1 with me today, I want you to imagine that dollar just flying away. That means you don't care about it. But when I come back to you and say your dollar flew away, it came back, but it's followed back with $5 more. The dollar went to work. Now it's bringing 5 more back to you. You're more comfortable with that. But if that dollar flies away and then you see it just drop down and now it's a half $1 on the floor, what are you going to do? You got to get it back up, scrape it up, and then try to figure out, how can I use this half $1 in another manner? Because the way I sent it off, that didn't work. What am I going to do differently? Making your money work for you is necessary. We have one body. Your body can take but so much. Every day you grow older, and you can't put that stress on your life all of your life. You have to have your money working for you. It can take a better beating.
So what we heard: go to school, get your education, and get a good job.
Right.
And you're going to make it in life. Or
right.
A man will walk up to you and says, man, I work hard all my life. That's the way to go. My thoughts tell me that is not the only way. Because if we follow certain patterns, the same old pattern is the same thing we have to do. You see, work, go to school, that's good. Get a good education and then get a good job. You see, and after that, that's it. But nobody teaches that. Guess what? You know what? Why is it that after you went to school, what are your plans after leaving school with what you learned? Because you went there to learn something.
Right.
Because everybody's not cut out to invest.
Right.
You see, everybody's not cut out, because you hit the point when you said the fear of losing. The first time I lost some money, I shook, man. I didn't like it, but guess what? I did it again. And I did it again. And I realized it works. But I didn't lose nothing. I always say, you know what? You never give up something if you're not willing to lose it.
Right.
If I'm going to lend George $5,000, and because he didn't bring it back, I'm crying over it. Yes, I might have a few words, but if that's going to stop my whole life, it makes no sense.
Correct. So you should never see the money that you need to feed the family, to take care of the household. That's not investable. That's not investable money. Either you save up to the side that $5,000 because you want to put it at risk. Remember, investing is a risk. You put it at risk, knowing that money's been, all the words we use, budgeting. We budgeted that money to the side. It's going towards an investment. Now, you want to hope that you don't lose when investing the same way twice, right? If you need to at least potentially lose while investing in different ways, but not the same way. Because if you lose in the same way, that means you didn't learn from the lesson of the first loss. It's a process, but we invest in our futures, like you said. Going to school, get a job, get the retirement, get the gold watch. That was the slogan of previous generations, and even in that, school is a good tool, but I believe what school teaches you time management. It gives you a structure. It gives you discipline, but it also trains you to be an employee, right? Because you know what you have to be, you know what you have to do. You do it, you're done. the individual has to then find the drive for the extracurriculum work, the after schools, the Saturday school, the extra learning. That is an individual who then potentially will switch to an entrepreneur, because every job has a boss. Every job was created by someone's thought.
Someone else, yes.
Yeah, so that thought needs to have workers, not a problem. But out of a bunch, a few would then want to be leaders themselves, which will create more work.
Yes. And I believe that the job that people go to, they forgot somebody invested in it.
Correct.
You see, and you will know it within yourself that, guess what? I'm here, but I need to do better. You know, and Pastor George, who would know it best? Who could talk about it? Who could talk about it better than you, Pastor George, who invested as a young man, 18 years old, and actually gained the experience that you didn't lose again?
Yeah.
So turn it over to you, Pastor.
Yeah. No, that, you was bringing me back while you were talking, both of you talking. It brought me back to that time. And as I look back at it, Pastor, when I speak to customers today, and I tell them that before I was 28 years old, I had a $1 million problem, and that $1 million ended up in $1 million of debt, and it was 17 properties, and I owed $1 million in debt after losing the properties. I started at 18, absolutely right. And one thing that I can tell you for certain is this: if I had to do it, I would have done it all over again. Because while I was going through the process, I was crying when I got to that stage of owing. But I can tell you, Pastor, that the amount of knowledge that process brought to me, it does not have a price tag on it. That is why, Pastor, I strongly believe this. I remember when I was in the airline and I was buying these properties, my tax bracket was less than 10% because I was investing, when my other friends were paying 30 to 40%. And that made me think about what both of you are saying. You see, in this country, once you understand about investing, once you understand about business, you understand that there are a lot of risk, but there are a lot of benefits that come with that risk. And I was just tippy-toeing and feeling some of those benefits. When I left the airline, Pastor, I came up to you and I said, here's what my plan is. And you said, go for it. And I can tell you, many of my friends now come back to me and ask me, how are you able to survive? How were you able to survive COVID? How were you able to still maintain the business? How are you able to maintain the lifestyle? Pastor, it's because of those years of suffering of that $1 million problem. And I love how both of you saying, taking a risk. This is one thing I do nowadays, and I do it every time. I always think about what's the worst that can happen. What's the worst that can happen? And then I plan my best and I do my best so it doesn't happen. But I do forget about it. I like what Warren Buffett said. He puts money and he forgets it like if it's not going to ever come back. 10, 15, 30, 50 years out, the man does not think about, oh, I'm going to get this in a year from now. Long time perspective.
That is a lot of food right there. You know, that's Albert does a lot of food there, bro.
Indeed. I mean, but it's the proper way to think, because you can't give a dollar, invest a dollar, and worry tomorrow. Oh, I need $1 for lunch. No, that money's already been allocated to whatever it is. But we have a problem individually to say, oh no, I know I got money over there. I got money over there. I can go ask for it. But it's one of the hardest things to understand. I know that money's not available to you until it reaches either the goal you set for it, or whatever circumstances hits you beforehand and it comes back to you. You can't go after it if you're in problems. And again, like what Pastor George said, understanding that money is out of sight. It's out of sight, out of mind. It's already doing its own job. It has to work. Send it to work. It's hard to conceptualize, but again, once you build that discipline to know that this is what needs to happen, you've allocated your budget accordingly. It's just habitual. And it's either you're going to have good habits or bad habits, but you have habits one way or the other. It's better to develop good habits because it's easier to maintain them. As we're thinking of talk about mental wealth, mental health is inclusive. So as we age, it's easier to be active, exercise, from the early stages up until old age. Similar to investing, from the early ages up until old age, it's more challenging to start working out, exercising middle age. Similarly, it's harder to start investing middle age. Why? Your ability to handle those downfalls, you won't be able to handle them. You can, and I like to go back and forth with exercising, because if you break a leg at 18, you're going to heal. You have a better chance of recovering and still being active. If you break a leg at 50, your healing process takes a little bit more time, right? Same way as if you invest money and lose it early in life, you learn from it, you adjust, you can take on other additional risks. Later in life, you have to be, again, the word is going to be conservative. You have to be more conservative with your investment, because your tolerance to losing the money can't be as wild as it once was when you were younger.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you're hearing from Mr. Hines, financial consultant, an investor, and we will get into more because you want to know who we're talking to. Pastor George, some of the business, and I know that your business have grown from what it is, and you have added so many different things to it. And between you two guys, I'm telling you, I am sitting between two wonderful young men. I'm telling you, because of the knowledge, and not only the knowledge, but the projection that you have in your life. And it's very important. You have to know who you choose to be around. You have to understand, and you don't have to see it with money. You see, you don't have to see with fancy cars, because they have some people don't have a fancy car, don't have a big house, but they have the knowledge that would take you from one place to another. You see, and it's called positioning. And that is why I brought you two wonderful young men together, because I believe with your knowledge, the little that I know, Mr. Hines' knowledge, Pastor Jordan knowledge, that we are going to help somebody tonight. And this is not the last time you'll be hearing their voices, because I really believe that, when people's eyes are open up and they begin to start, they want to take action. That's the thing. People want to take action, but sometimes it's just like a LeBron James. He didn't just become the LeBron James. The late Kobe Bryant just didn't become it like that. They had to develop it.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of work. You would hear Kobe back then, you could say the nights he was spending in the gym, the LeBron, the night they spent in the gym, looking at film, and that's very important. Very, very important that you spend so much time looking at the young and the restless as the world turned, and nothing turning for you.
Yeah. Oh, it's
You
true,
know,
Pastor. It's very true, man.
it's
Very.
true.
There is a great book I read years ago. It's called "Talent is Underrated," and there was this person. The author did a real down study and looked at some of the most talented individuals back then, and of course Jordan and many of these other basketball players were included in there. And what he learned was fascinating. What he did is he went back to the background, to the ages, since they were small. And what he saw was amazing. Pretty much what you just said, Pastor, which is this: it did not become in one day, it was not created in 30 days. This process was undergoing for many years. Many of them started from an age of 7, 8, and their parents will hold them and teach them and help them develop that talent into what it is. It's a process, but they started. They started, and like the brother just said, they kept it consistent. They kept it consistent over and over, and they started small, and they built on that discipline. And they just kept on one day at a time, practicing and becoming better. And I believe it's the same thing with mental wealth. It truly is. It does not, it's not something that's going to happen in one day.
No.
It's a process. It's a process.
I remember there's a guy right here in Brooklyn on Utica, and there's a car wash there. And this guy used to sell a lot of things out of his car, you know, think the Amaral. He would do little things, you know. He wanted the air refreshing, he would sell it. Right there, he would sell it. One day I was going up Utica Avenue, I think around by Avenue N. And when I looked to my right, I said, wow, the guy opened up a store with the audio sound and all the little trimmings, you know, for your car. But people only seeing that now. But I saw him when he was in his van, and maybe started before his van.
Right.
You see, but he had a vision. The thing is, what are you seeing? And it don't take a lot for you to envision where you want to go. It just takes for you to know where you want to go. You see, because you have to envision it, and you don't have to have all the money. You know, tonight I'm going to ask Mr. Albert a question, Mr. Hines a question. That if you could just let people know how they could get in contact with you if they want. And here's the thing about it, Mr. Albert and George. Sometimes people don't have, it's not that they don't have money, they just don't know how to manage what they have.
Right.
People just don't know how to manage what they have. You would always hear this saying, man, how you doing? I'm trying to make ends meet. I asked them, how far is the other end from one end? Because I want to know how long it's going to take. You know, and you hear so much about money and money. You know, and when you talk about money from a church perspective, it seemed as though like you talking about something that is not relevant. That's why the A train is packed, the 41 bus is packed, the 46 bus is packed. You know, back and forth. It takes money to run that train. The conductor got to get paid. The driver got to get paid. MT have to run on a budget wherever they get their money from. But they got to run on a budget.
Yeah.
You see? So it's nothing like free money. Money don't grow on trees.
Mm.
It is purposely earned.
Correct.
Yeah. Let me just
Purposely earned.
throw something in quickly that I'm sure that many people should hear on this. So I have a little joke I always tell people, and it's this. Many times they say, listen, I would love to make $1 million. And I always tell them, well, listen, you are going to make it one way or another throughout your lifetime. The two things that, and I mean this, if you make $35,000 and you make that for the rest of your life, eventually you would have made over $1 million, say over 30 years. So you're going to make the money one way or another. The question is how much of it you're going to keep and what you're going to do with what you keep, right? So I love reminding people of that because they look at this price tag as something that they will never get to. No, 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 no. If you add up how much money you make over your lifetime, you have exceeded more than likely $1 million by the time you get to a certain age. The question is, what percentage and what did you do with it? Right? So I love that, Pastor, what you're bringing up, Messiah, what you're bringing up, because truly we have the power. The Bible teaches us this, right, Pastor? This is one of the main scriptures that God gave you for this program, the power of wealth.
Yes.
And we have to be able to hang around people like my brother who's here today and ask them and use their talents to help our talents.
Yes. You know,
Amen.
and it's very important.
Amen. Yes.
Very, very important, because the thing is that I am an aggressive person when it comes to more. More of what? You see, I'm aggressive with it. I don't put everything into it because life is consists of other things, you know, but I'm aggressive to make sure. And we could put the God fact in there, but he give you a garden to manage. He give you to manage. Your life has got to be manageable. Have to be manageable with your finances.
Yeah.
The way you treat it. One guy come to me, Mr. Hines, I don't know if you ever see this. And when he pulls the money out of the pocket, it's all over the place. All over the place. A bulk of money. And I said, bro, you got to take care of it. You got to take care of the money. Because you got a 20, you got $1. But you have some people, when they take out that money, they have the 20s, the 10s, the 5s, and the dollar bill. They have it all in order. And this is what I learned. And they're not the only ones with money, because we like to say those Jews got a lot of money. It's not they have a lot of money. They know how to manage it. And that goes right across the board. Even millionaires have to manage their money. Because you see a lot of NBA players today. And did I run into one of them? I think I run into, and he said, man, that's my brother, man, but he broke. He used to be an NBA player.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
He said, well, that's my brother, man. He broke, though.
Wow.
He has the name, but he ain't got the fame. He ain't got the money no more.
Right. And
So,
listen, people will be around until the money runs out.
Say that hard, my brother. Say that hard. I learned that one. I saw that one.
Yeah, no. I mean, you bring up an NBA player. I know I've known a few, you know, in distance, and I remember. I wonder. Just imagine a guy buying 30 hats from the hat store. 30 hats, not just for him. It's for the entourage, or to see a bill at IHOP of $2,500. This is just breakfast. We couldn't cook in the house.
wow.
But management of money is very important, very important. But it's not a skill you're born with. You have to be taught it.
So as we're leaving here tonight, Mr. Hines, explain to let people know what you do, how they could get in contact with you, you know, how they can do it.
Not a problem. I want to first thank you, Pastor Leslie. Thank you, Pastor George. I mean, today, October 1st, is a very important day for everyone paying attention and listening. Why? Now is the best time to do a budget. It's the beginning of the month. Start tracking every dollar that you spend. If bills come in, put them all to the side. If you get them electronically, whatever, however you get your bill notifications in, write them all down. Learn to see how much money you got coming in. Learn to see what expenses, bills that you have going out, and what your net should be at the end of the month. It's very important to put a budget together, no matter what. Calling me is great. Call me at the office. You know, the number is 718-709-9033. I'll say that again, 718-709-9033. Don't hesitate. Don't think you don't have enough to do anything, because we don't know what there is to be done. We have to first learn where you are. I had a lady call me, this maybe 5 years ago, but I met her back in 2012. She calls me in 2015, says, hey, you did a seminar, and now I have the chance to call you. You know what I first said to her? You're lucky the phone is still working. It took you 3 years to call me to say now you're ready to talk. You're lucky I'm still in business. Let's not waste that amount of time. You know, call, let's have a discussion, let's see where you are, let's build a plan together. Every plan is individualized for you and your purpose.
Thank you so much,
again,
Pastor George.
Thank you again.
Let the people know what you do and how they could get in contact with you.
It's so interesting. When he was giving out his number, I thought he was going to give out my number, and you'll see in a second why. So, we specialize in helping families develop their personal credit, no matter where they are. You could be where I was at 300 credit score, which you don't go any lower than that, or you can be even with a strong credit score, and you will still get declined for things. So we help families establish personal credit, and we help small business owners to establish business credit, which is credit completely separate in the business name under the business EIN number. Our phone number, get ready, don't confuse the two, is 718-709-9047.
Whoa. Well, guess what? If you confuse them, you can't go wrong either way.
And I will tell you this, Pastor, and Mr. Hines, I'll tell you this quickly. The reason I put that number in place, the pastor one day will talk about this, is because of an event called Black Friday, which was a day in my journey where my eyes were open to entrepreneurship. And that phone number reminds me of the importance of the entrepreneurship that's within me. And that man that you see there, pastor, my senior pastor, was one of the reasons why that phone number is in place. He just doesn't know it until today, too.
Okay.
Wow. So you guys got 718-709. The digits of the, wow.
43, 42, and 33. I got it.
What is yours?
Mine's is 33. His is 42.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So you thought he was giving up your number, Pastor George?
I said, you should have seen my son is next to me. He's like, he's about to give out our phone number.
That's amazing.
But this is a great conversation we're having, and I'm going to speak even to Pastor mentioned GP.
Yep.
I'm going to speak to him when I get off the phone and see if I can get you two guys on Monday night to carry this conversation, because it's nothing like putting things in place. Putting things in place. I'm not trying to enjoy my money when I get old. I'm trying to enjoy it right now. You know, right now.
Yeah.
You see, there's nothing wrong, and it's so much the night when you talk about wills and this and this and that. I'm trying to enjoy mine now. And whoever, my children, grandchildren, get some, they must know I was there enjoying it.
Right.
Amen.
But you know, what would be even better if the generation before you thought the way you are. Because that's the pass down. You couldn't go wrong if they thought good back then, if they knew better. But
You know what I said?
better, the generation after you will do better.
You know what I say? My father, he have sight, but the foresight, insight.
Hindsight.
That's what hindsight. That's the name of his company. Hindsight. Yeah. But this is what happened, because sometimes we leave our next generation blind. And then they'll have to make it out of that blind place. You see? So I don't want to leave. I'm not going to leave my next generation blind. Somebody have to take the time to open up their eyes. And when they get to that place, they said, my eyes been open for a very long time. I know what to do. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on the mental wealth. Thank you for joining us on this Friday night. And we thank God for you. Mr. Hines, thanks for joining us again. And I'm going to talk to GP tonight in a few minutes.
My pleasure.
We got to have you two guys, because what we talk about is building the coalition. A coalition. It's a coalition where we can come together and actually not just talk, but activate people. Activate people. Sometimes we could talk about church, blah, 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 speaking it, all that's good. But after you finish doing that, the mortgage man is looking for you. This guy is looking for you. And most of it comes down to money. It comes down to money. The lack of money. You could have faith. That's good. But Con Edison doesn't want, Brooklyn Union Gas don't want that. They want something called MONEY. And with that, I thank you, men, for joining me. Have a great evening. Thank you so much, viewers. And I pray that you take down these men number again. Repeat the number one more time, my brother Hines.
Mr. Hines, you want to go first? He's on mute. Well, you're on mute. Oh, he's on mute.
I don't know what happened here.
I can hear you. Yes, 718-709-9047. Mr. Heinz, that's...
And his number is 43.
Is it?
His number is 43, yes.
33? So 718...
718-709...
4333.
433. You got it. Yes. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. We move right into sign language so they can get it. God bless everyone. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. Amen. God bless.